We must open up our minds and take a look inside. That we find we hold all the answers tonight.
You're watching RXG exclusives.
Oh, they tried to keep us away. Yeah.
My guest today is a sister from another mister, frequent collaborator, international recording artist JULIE McKNIGHT, house music superstar.
I knew you'd come knocking one day, unannounced like a thief in the night. I hear you.
I had the pleasure of working with JULIE on our digital series, The Counterparts.
My name is JULIE McKNIGHT, and I'm the presenting executive producer of Counterparts,
which starred Kristen Gabrielle, daughter of Grammy-nominated artist Kathy Sledge of Sister Sledge, and several other talented performers. JULIE and I go way back, and it's a pleasure to have you on the show. Thanks for doing this. It's been a little while.
Good to see you. Too long.
Now, you're usually on tour this time of year around the world, but the global pandemic has put a damper in a lot of people's plans. And in the last several days, the senseless and tragic death of George Floyd has put our nation in even more turmoil. JULIE, tell me how you are coping with the current state of affairs.
Some days I don't. Some days are just, you realize you fell asleep that night because you woke up the next day. It's just been draining and all of that. But, like you said, we were already starting to feel the heaviness from, the coronavirus right now. And like you said, touring for all of us in our industry, music industry, has just stopped until next year. So that's a big deal. So to answer you, thankfully I was a preschool teacher, so I went back, started teaching my babies.
You're like, you're like Superwoman.
Amazing.
You go into the phone booth and you have a completely different life.
The whole skyscraper, and but no, that's what does it for me, because there's no way you can have an issue, at least for those 8 hours a day, with 3, 4, 5-year-olds. And I've been blessed to also be working with, our facility was deemed a place for our essential workers. So I've gotten older kids too, school age, and it just fills my day, to understand that they know their world has changed, but they don't have to feel the pressure of it. So that keeps my mind off until I come home and turn the news on. then it's different.
Now, you took part in the rally protests and you posted online about how peaceful they were and how proud you were.
I'm so proud of my city. I'm so proud of my state. I'm so proud of my brothers and sisters of every rainbow color. It's amazing.
But then something shifted.
Why do they need the mask? Why do they need their mask? We're doing nothing. You've seen us. I think they're ready for us to go. Why they have their mask on, it's their way of letting us know it's time to go. Y'all have had your say, wrap it up. Look at the smoke down the street. Look. There's no reason.
Take me through what happened.
It was so beautiful. I mean, when I say beautiful day, beautiful people, I mean every race. Love. Every race. People giving out water. People giving out masks. people being safe with their bodies. We saw different groups that had signs that had all these different religious symbols. So it was just such a good day of we had instruments and the whole thing, and we marched around all of downtown. I mean, all over 2.5 hours. But I guess at some point it was the city wanted us to be all finished, so we started to come around parts of our route that they had barricaded, which led us around where we had to come start again. So, we one of our parking structures has you have an intake side for our courthouse. So they stopped there because, they could see the cops inside the tunnel. So that's when the crowd just stopped. They got louder and, every time they saw police officers, they would hands up, don't shoot, or some would kneel. I mean, but everybody kept it moving. I mean, suddenly the little horns started going off and like we can't be out here. I can't breathe. That's the cops blowing their whistles. We are allowed to be here. That's the intake entrance for our police station, downtown Raleigh, North Carolina. They shut certain blocks down so you couldn't get into them. Tell them. Then you come around a corner and they're in full gear with tear gas. And we were like, what is happening? So needless to say, because it was so peaceful, there were families and children and elderly and terrified of. So I know but I have to say this, even after that span, there was no issue that just a few hours later we started to see it. By the time I came home, I said, what happened? But the more stories I started to hear and the more footage friends would send, it was clear that they started to get more pressure from the police, which definitely escalated it from the time we decided probably time to go.
You're the mother of 2 young adult males of color, BRIAN McKNIGHT Jr., who graciously lends his voice to this show. He sings our theme song. And also your youngest, NIKO McKNIGHT. Having 2 black sons must give you pause about them potentially participating in demonstrations, but it also must give you pause about them navigating their daily lives in this America. Tell me, what kind of conversations have you had to have with them, and might you still be having with them?
I was fortunate enough to grow up in a home where parents started us with these conversations early. We're up north family, but I was generally raised in Memphis, Tennessee from 6 to 16 or so. Then that's when I went to Los Angeles. So the bulk of when I was younger was down south. So we had to have those conversations. Now, my sons, I started with them early as well because they were Valley boys after a few years, and they experienced extreme racism in the San Fernando Valley in California. I mean, it was really bad. So I had to start with them. But now they've also seen anything like this. Like most of us haven't seen anything like this. But their conversations with me now are differently, and I'm not that mother that if you ain't out there marching, your ancestors did it, and yo such it. No, that's kind of what their mother does. NIKO, my baby boy, insane photographer. So that's
I can attest to that. He has some skill.
I'm telling you. So that's. everybody has their level that they participate in change, and it doesn't look like the next one. So, you know, if NIKO is there to show what people don't generally see, all right, that's his lane. If BJ's is to, you know, create awareness of different websites and projects or anything that's useful for those who may not know, well, where do I go to do this? You have your lane to be in. And I'm more afraid of them coming home from the studio than going to one of our protests, because with the protests, they have instilled in them the instinct to know it's time to go. They have control of that. If they get a hold of a bad cop, a murderous cop, a cop that had a bad day, or who, I'm afraid even more now. That's what a lot of folks I don't think understand when it comes to our sons as moms. It's not like we can say, okay, we're done. They sentenced them both, and they did. Now we have been through this enough to know there's going to be masses of people, including law officials, police officers, who are going to be so upset at the fact that some of their brothers were caught. They were caught just over killing this black man. So that's why the shift is there, where I wish I would be able to breathe that we've made changes. Here's 4 cops. We want them arrested, but it still makes us nervous that the change hasn't happened enough for it to have become a habit in our country.
Right.
So you pray for them. Thankfully, they, know how to read the situation. And I mean, so it's just, you pray for them. That's it.
Now, Julie, are you the type of mother that gets upset if your sons don't call you when they get back home?
I'm that mom who won't fuss. Because like I said, even though they're 30 and 27, I just won't sleep. You know what I mean? I'll text them. Even when they were here physically and living at home, I was that mom that said, okay, call me when you're leaving there. So whatever little plans you may have made in between, just let me know you've left there, and I can kind of gauge, he should have been home by now. Let me check on him. Then I'll start making the phone calls. But you worry anyway every night that you don't hear from them.
Yeah, my mom is the same. Did you see the tape of the Morehouse student and the Spelman student being forcibly removed from their car?
Yes, I did.
What were your thoughts?
In that day, by the time I saw that, they were already big. So for me, it really brought to light, not even to light, I think it brought home to some of our kids, all of them are kids, but even my college students, that there is still a level of caste system within our race. It just is. And I think that a lot of times, if some of our kids have felt, well, we're here, we're doing everything we're supposed to do, we're not over there doing that, we're not slanging and whatever. So why is this? If anything, from some of the young folks that I had at school with me, they're interns at the school that I'm at, they were so upset. These are college kids. And it's wild you asked me that, because I was trying to explain to them, at this point, it's just because you look like who they're after in a situation. You could be doing everything right. You don't have to resemble anybody necessarily, but it bothered them so much that they were like, then what are we supposed to do? They were in their car. It tore me up. Of course, they were my babies at that moment, but I could only imagine that in this day and time, especially the baby brother, they're going to kill me. They're beating these kids up. They're beating them up in the street. And they had to believe that we're going to get her. They're going to beat us up. I think arrest me at this point for some of our young folk, and some of our men would be an option they never thought they'd choose over. I don't know if I'm going to die over this. It just tore me up.
Now, the National Security Advisor says there's no systemic racism within the United States police force, and the NYPD police chief says there's no systemic racism in the NYPD. Are they correct?
By the time it hits the level where the police officers are on the street with us, it changes in that brotherhood, because they're not turning in each other. They're not, even if they're finding an issue with what another has done, the stories that we probably don't even know. And that's because they have come in under that shield with having grown up or been raised in, or just their beliefs aren't left at the door, that are a part of the problem. We have the systemic racism, not just, I don't like you because you're that race, that you actually agree, well, it's okay that they don't have the same. It's okay if they have less or different. Well, so there's levels that come where we can't control them on the street, and they're just not the same as what the system is able to actually put in place to keep us at a level. So, I mean, it's where we are now, as far as the, because it's in colleges, it's still in universities, it's still in all of it, because the system is where it has to start here. You want to find out what's wrong, just like police officers. Hopefully it changes within that, but it has to change with your partner, with your precinct. It's fine that some are kneeling, but I guarantee that with us, I appreciate everything that anyone is doing to show support. But now what I need you to do is say, my partner, JoJo, is actually the one that did that to that brother that was dropped. I mean, in LA, they would beat up kids, shoot them. They would leave them on porches in the hood. You never knew who it was. And then they'd come around and say, well, you all never tell us who did anything. A lot of the assaults, and this is when I was in high school, the police officers did them. Just let them pick you up and it'll beat you up so the neighborhoods know. Or, I mean, it wasn't a movie. We're going to start some wars between some of these gang members so we can corral them up and get our Jones off for the day to beat up some black and brown kids. So it has to start in this situation from cop to cop. For me.
What can non-people of color do to be actively involved with affecting the change and the justice that people of color in this nation need? A lot of people they did the blackout on their social media pages, but is that enough? That's the question.
You know what? That Blackout Tuesday, it worked my nerves. I was there for everything it was about, and I'll tell you what got me is that, which is in line with your question. I am so just excited and proud, and it just gives me goosebumps when I see how many of our white brothers and sisters are there to support us, who are there to take hits for us. I mean, I've seen a couple, I'm sorry, my brothers and sisters, I saw a few where while they were arguing about something on the sidewalk, whether one should be here or you're not doing this, the white folks were still there. They're getting the shields. They're getting the hits, the punches with us. Now that's the top extreme of it. I don't think there's any level more important as far as the day of the blackout. So I think it made a lot of our non-Black brothers and sisters feel, I can at least do this. I can at least do this. This is my part. I really don't know what to do, but I can do this. I can black this screen out. I can leave a comment. And there were so many comments from my people. You're doing it wrong. That's not the way. If you're not going to do, and then they're back to, okay, well, what do I do? Let these people protest how they want. That's their way. We would get upset if they were saying nothing. We were upset with All Lives Matter. Now droves are with us. No, they weren't there before, but for whatever reason, maybe they're tired of seeing it now too. But even friends of mine at work, they are asking the questions. I've had coworkers ask me, what can I do? And I tell them all, because for me, on a humanity type level, if I can get them to feel it, they'll never know because of our skin that's different. But if I can get them to feel it, so if they ever ask me, just feel it that could be your brother. Feel it if that's your father. Feel it if that's your son and you can just see their faces, because you can't connect something that you have no idea about. Oh, I'm sorry you cut your finger. Well, I've cut mine and it just didn't hurt that bad. Or I've never cut mine. It's just, they are doing the best they can do. It is our responsibility to help them understand. Now, I have let a few know I'm just not gonna, be the encyclopedia for you. You study. That's on you. You want to know more about this, then I can give enough to start. I've had many that have come, but they're so excited. Well, this is stuff they didn't know, and they're seeing it now. So I cannot say to myself that there's something I could tell them to do that they aren't watching their brothers and sisters doing. Just don't say anything crazy on your Instagram or IG. That would help. That would help too right now. Black Lives Matter has nothing to do with no one else's lives matter, or yours matters less because you're not Black. It's one of those. Right now, in this time, as it's been over and over and over again, Black lives are mattering. They're being taken. They're just being taken. The last 2 weeks, with how many of us have been killed back to back to back, was just too much. So of course, we know that police officers are killed. They are choosing to go to work in a dangerous situation. Jogging is not one. Of course our brown lives matter. They're still, in cages with aluminum foil. They matter. Of course, white lives matter. My mother's family's from West Virginia. These are Caucasian people in those mountains with no health care, dying, no food, no transportation, no help. And so we understand all that matters. Well, there may be the platforms they need to show that more then. But right now what we're seeing is Black folk dying. So let's handle this, because this is an argument we need to get out the way. Because if maybe America feels, well, if we can treat these Black folk right, we can sure treat everybody else okay. So it's got to start with something and bring its way. Of course, all lives matter. Now then it just turns into, you have those few who just want to disagree. So to them, they'll just be that way.
So Julie, where do we go from here? Where do you go from here? What's your advice for staying hopeful amid a global pandemic, civil unrest, and political divisiveness? Civil rights for Asians, Latinos, Blacks, Native Americans, LGBTQ+. I mean, there's a lot.
There's a lot of lives that matter. It's true. It's and honestly, what I have started to do, it's just so cliche, but it is so one day at a time. And same thing I told NIKO, and on the phone with him, he was so upset this past Saturday night because he's seeing the world burning down. You know what I mean? They weren't sure if they were going to be able to go home from Vegas. Are we going to be, they see martial law tanks. Are we going to be stuck here? Can we get back in our city? So even talking to them, I had to slow down. The first thing I had to realize was it's okay for me to have a good day, to be happy about things, to take a minute. You're not disowning every ancestor if you turn the TV off for a second, Give yourself a minute to just chill. I had to do that because I was staying way up here. And I had to remember, okay, now me freaking out and the stress, my body is still trying to stay as healthy as it can to fight off our first issue that we were dealing with. So I had to just put a lot of things in their little pie slice, or I'd be losing my mind right now.
That particular Saturday was a rough one for a lot of us, and I can't even describe how I felt, but I guess I kind of felt like a Mack truck had hit me. And if I felt that way, I can't imagine what the family of George Floyd and the families of people who have also lost their lives just like him.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's just true. We all just kind of sat like, here it is, but like I told them, there has to be that before everything starts to filter out. I told them, I said, you could very well in history be ready to see like the worst that's ever happened to America. The longer we're living in this climate, the energy that's just has to go here at this point. And it will do this. It has to, or we start over. So that's, I just had to make sure that they knew you have a whole lot of life that's still happening around you. Take a minute. It's okay to fall back from everything right now, your age group especially, and under, like my boys, like my father said, this is you all's moment. Like they were seeing that's like, their civil rights moment. And for my father who was there then to say how beautiful certain aspects are. Everything wasn't, it's watching them, they see it went from here. Yeah, we're doing it again, but it's here. You've never had them in front of the White House like that. You've never. So for my parents to say, we thought ours was here, that they've never seen anything like this that included so many people for this cause. Oh, they got excited. My dad, of course, is praying for each person hurt. You don't want to be hurt. You don't want them hurt. But they're teaching me how to find all of this is not happening because it's not going to change something. I think the protesters have made that clear. We'll be here every day. Yeah. So it's just keeping yourself together, being upset if you're upset, but not staying in it, because I guarantee you the next story is going to be another one and another one. So take a minute. That's what my kids help me do at school, because I can't watch the news there all day.
Where can people learn more about you? How can they stay connected? I know that the future is uncertain right now as far as what's next for you. But when you do go back to the industry, what do you think it'll look like in this COVID new normal?
You know what? We talk about that all the time because, we play festivals and we're like, the point of it is to be there and be with each other. What I've fallen in love with since we've had to all slow down is I think it's going to look like a whole lot of new artists. I think the creatives are here and they've had a platform to show their talent they probably would have never if the whole world wasn't all having to be virtual, without the bells and whistles. I'm loving the talent that I'm seeing coming out. But, as far as us and performing, I like the fact that it might be smaller crowds. It might have to be, spaced in numbers where you can just greet more lounge type ways. I don't think people are ready to be all packed in at this point. Do I miss going? At this point, if I'd have left on my schedule at the top of March, this weekend would be 46, 47 show of those months. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of us, but I think it's slowing us down to know the quality needs to be there. Now, when we come back, people aren't just they're going to think about it. They've been home. their money's tighter. It's going to mean more. Imagine you haven't been able to go to the movies. So I think the quality that's going to come when it comes back, they're not going to be able to just give us whatever that in the theaters and the music industry and in, most of the fields where we just kind of started getting bombarded with things. Good stuff is there.
Yeah. And people can find you where?
Well, you just find me anywhere when you punch in Julie McKnight. But you can find me on, that's the same with my Facebook. You can go to the fan page, or you can come straight to me and talk to me. And that is Julie McKnight. And at IG, it's Julie McKnight.
Well, Julie, thanks so much. This has been beautiful as always. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I look forward to seeing you in the flesh when all the dust settles.
I'm glad to see you.
I'm Robert X. Golphin, and you've been watching another RXG exclusive. I'll see you next time.
Hang on to the world as it spins around. Just don't let the spin get you down. Things are moving fast. Hold on tight and we will last. Take it from me, someday we'll all be free. It won't be long, take it from me, someday we'll all be free. It's gonna happen. I love y'all.